Beyond Lumina, Episode 19, Retribution. Hey Reedy, a girl similar in appearance, but younger than the Costian girl, started. Since Usion is at the hangar now, where is Filony? I thought he might be here this rotation. He said that he wanted to go see more of the planet. I told him to be careful, because he still doesn't quite blend in here. He will probably come by the grove when he's finished, Shuri. I hope so, the young girl, Shuri, replied with a frown. Sure enough, not too late in the rotation, Filony came to the mushroom grove, speeding into the lot dangerously. Both girls came over to him in a bit of a hurry when they saw his own haste. Filony, Rini called to him, why are you driving so recklessly? Is something wrong? Rini, Filony then looked at the other girl and couldn't help blushing. Shuri, we are in great danger here. I don't know how to say this. Rini was very worried now. Tell us, Filony, what's the matter? We need to tell everyone we can to get off Kostia as soon as possible. Right now. Filony answered straightforwardly, not sure how else to break such shocking news. Your planet isn't going to be here much longer. The pre-space planet of Inagon had erupted in war. On the island known as Selvis, where Aezic and the others crash-landed, the Ascendancy now flooded the forest home of the native tribe. The death of the chief's younger daughter, Katash, sent the Inagon warriors into a frenzy, handling a battle in which they had only one man for every 5. When the chief returned with the warriors fighting on the mainland and outflanked the Ascendancy soldiers, the battle shifted in their favor, despite the overwhelming number of reinforcements. In his grief and rage, Chief Oshu cut down more soldiers than anyone, sparing nobody his blade. He nearly single-handedly turned the tide when he arrived, and the Ascendancy soldiers began to look like they were ready to retreat. But suddenly the chief saw from the corner of his eye a flash of gray, followed by a searing pain. He looked down to see a charred and open wound at his side, tried to stay the bleeding, then scanned the area for his assailant, to no avail. Show yourself, coward, the chief challenged his hidden opponent, or are you too weak to face me directly? The figure darted toward him again, but this time stopped short as Oshu tried to react in time. The warrior then slashed upward, and he seemed to jump an incredible height when he did so, adding to the impact and slashing into the chief's left arm. His enemy then came hurtling back down with a concentrated plasma blade pointed at Chief Oshu's head. Back in the Treetop City, Glaus, along with Artis and Grimm, led Kita, the chief's elder daughter, to a safe place and stayed with her for some protection, as most of the men had gone to fight. Kita was in shock, shaking uncontrollably. Glaus tried to calm her down, but was also concerned for Grimm. Your arm, son, he said to the Ascendancy renegade. You need to get it treated right away. I can go find someone, it's fine. Grimm stopped him. He can wait until this is over. He stood near the entrance to the room, along with Artis, with plasma pistol drawn in case the enemy would break through into the city. Your change of heart is admirable, replied Glaus. Don't assume too much, old man, Grimm said somberly. I doubt you'd understand. Glaus noted the statement, then turned his attention toward Kita once more. Can you understand me, my girl? Can you hear me? Come now, it's going to be all right. Artis, can you find some water for her to drink, perhaps? Artis nodded and quickly dashed away. Don't worry, he said again to Kita. Your kinsman will return soon, victorious. On the shoreline of the Inagonian island, Aezic, Ankh, and the others entered the fray, while Vala tried to keep Zarya safe in the back. The new native combatants were immediately thrown into fits of rage like their brethren over the death of Katash. so they quickly pushed into the enemy's back lines and began to rout the Ascendancy army. Aezic attempted to lead Vala and Zario through to their allies, and soon caught a glimpse of the chief, just in time to see him get slashed by something rocketing through the clearing. Just then, someone else bolted through the natives' ranks, colliding with Ankh and dragging him off his feet and into the thicket. There was no time for Aezic to help, for he saw the chief was in great danger. Rushing toward the center of the fray, he saw his assailant deal the chief another devastating upward strike, then vanish from sight. You can't be serious, Aezic thought, realizing what was happening. Oshu's attacker came plummeting down from the sky, plasma blade aimed right at the native chief. With his 2 severe wounds, he was unable to defend himself, and prepared for the end. Just before his killer connected with him, however, a few plasma pistol shots came speeding through the forest, aimed right at the descending Ascendancy officer. The villain saw the attack coming, and was able to stop instantly in midair, and change direction, retreating from the plasma shots, as well as Chief Oshu. Running toward his new ally, Aezic covered the chief now with his own concentrated plasma blade. "Thank you, my friend," the chief said to him, sorrow coating every word. "Don't mention it," Aezic replied, "and I'm sorry." There was no more time for words, as the Ascendancy attacker advanced once more with lightning speed, but Aezic parried the oncoming blade with some ease. Doing so, he caught a glimpse of who it was he was fighting. Not surprising, he thought again. Again, the soldiers sped toward Aezic and Oshu, trying to use whatever device he had for misdirection now rather than speed. But Aezic pulled out his plasma pistol again and fired in what looked like a sporadic pattern. However, it allowed him to then manipulate the warrior's path, so Aezic could better predict his next strike. He was successful, and when the two clashed again, Aezic caught his opponent by the hilt of his plasma blade, stopping him in his place. "Master Scar," he said, calling out their attacker. "Only the Ascendancy, only you, would be so reckless as to fight using grav boots. If not one of your own men, you'll certainly get yourself killed." The assailant, Master Scar, cackled at this statement, and then engaging his grav boots, forced himself out of Aezic's grasp, then reversed the boot's gravity, causing him to flip over Aezic and give him a swift kick, knocking him forward several feet. The seasoned soldier quickly recovered, though, and met the incoming plasma blade of Master Scar's with his own. "Not bad," Master Scar hissed. He tried maneuvering around Aezic with the grav boots while they fought, doing everything in his power to create an opening. He switched to shorter dashes and quick strikes, but Aezic countered each, and Scar was growing angry. In his anger, he slipped up, and Aezic, predicting where the Ascendancy Master would go, sliced at the grav boots, causing them to spark and explode, greatly wounding Master Scar, who cried out in pain. "I guess you didn't know," Aezic started, relaxing his stance, "that I was a star grav ball player back in my younger days." Scar landed not far from Aezic and Oshu, and the chief didn't hesitate to advance and execute the enemy warrior. After doing so, he turned to Aezic. "Thank you again, my friend. I would not have lived if it hadn't been for you." "You're welcome. I'm just glad I made it in time," Aezic replied, looking down again at the now deceased Master Scar. Oshu noticed the Outlander's expression. "Would you have had me show mercy toward this wretched villain?" Aezic thought about it, then replied, "I don't know." "There is no time for your indecision," Oshu stated. "Let us finish this battle, Aezic Zin." Hong had been taken off his feet several times in a row, pummeled by some fast-moving object, and separated from the rest of the group. Now in a dense patch of jungle, he scoured the woody surroundings for his attacker, trying to hear his approach through the foliage. Instead, he was met by plasma shots, some of which he dodged, others he absorbed with the concentrated plasma blade that Vala had lent him. Then he heard maniacal, high-pitched laughter, then its owner saying, "Oh my, are the savages upset? Because the girl is dead?" He laughed some more. Ank's rage boiled over, and giving a war cry, charged the direction he thought he heard the voice. He was slightly mistaken, and the Ascendancy soldier shot back into him at full force, knocking Ankh down once more and the air out of his lungs. Again the man laughed evilly, and then repeated, "Oh, are you mad too? Did you care about her?" He tried attacking Ankh again, but Ankh was too experienced to let a few bruises stop him from defending himself, especially with the adrenaline that was flowing through him. The Ascendancy attacker stopped and spoke again. "You know who killed her? Take a guess." Then he laughed even louder, and without allowing Ankh to answer, began chanting, "I killed her! I killed the girl!" Ankh yelled in fury and again tried charging the enemy. Again he misjudged the sneaky soldier's position, and he again tried punishing Ankh, who this time caught a glimpse of the human rocket just before he made impact. Ankh grabbed onto him and threw off the device being used to move at such high speeds, sending both Ankh and his assailant crashing to the ground in a heap of dazed flesh. Ankh, however, came to his senses more quickly, and seeing the Ascendancy soldier lying next to him, gave a roar and ignited the concentrated plasma blade. The other soldier, coming around himself, cried out in terror as he saw the native warrior on top of him. Then he was run through by Ankh's plasma blade, and he was no more. Private Zawopika shook uncontrollably from fear and anxiety at what she had just witnessed. She couldn't make any sense of it. All she could think to do was contact her other superior, the person she trusted most, outside of her twin sister. "Sergeant, please come in," Zawopika stammered nervously. "It's an emergency." "What is it, Private?" came the voice of Master Sergeant Maloon on the other end. "Sir, I don't know what to do," she began anxiously. "I don't know what's happening. Private," Maloon shouted through her ship's comms. "Get a hold of yourself and tell me what's going on." "Sergeant, there's another invasion," Zawopika tried again. "When I went to report on our mission to the commander, I heard what sounded like plasma shots. I looked in the room and I saw the Sergeant Major standing over the bodies of Captain Bedgard and Lieutenant Mervavert." Maloon's face went pale. She knew something was up. There were enough warnings. She just didn't want to face what that meant. "Private, have you told anyone else about this?" she asked her subordinate. "No, I didn't know what to do when I found out, so that's why I contacted you," Zawopika answered honestly. "You need to keep this between us for now," Maloon instructed her. "Don't tell anyone else. At all, Zawa. Corporal Dodds and I are returning to Ravina right now. We'll discuss it when we get on planet. For now, just do what you're told." "Yes, Commander," Zawopika complied. She knew the extra part of the warning meant not to tell her twin sister, Kizawap, Vala's subordinate, about it either. Cutting communications, the young woman from Lonvirov tried to calm herself down in her sleeping quarters, but before long another call came through her comms. "Private," it was Corporal Tice, currently heading the entire squad while both Maloon and Vala were absent. "The Sergeant Major told us to get ready to head out. General Vorian and Captain Hadrid have arrived with their forces." "Yes, sir," Zawopika quickly replied and prepared herself. "The general's here," she thought. "Maybe I should tell him what I saw." As much as she wanted to, she was too loyal to Maloon to disobey such a direct order. So she left her quarters, met with the rest of the squad, and tried to act normal, though it wasn't long before her sister Kizawap detected something was wrong. The squad met with their commander as he was greeting General Vorian and Captain Hadrid. "Commanders, I'm glad you're here," he started, "with such a war on our doorstep." "Yes," the general replied, "and it will arrive at Cronus Prime shortly. We must prepare as quickly as possible. Where are Captain Vanguard and the Lieutenant? I have not been able to reach them since earlier this rotation. Sir, Robin's voice felt quiet and somber. Captain Vanguard and Lieutenant Mervaverick were blindsided by the enemy on a mission earlier, and were both killed in action. We are running on little manpower here. That's why your arrival is so necessary. I'm sorry to hear that, Ravin, Orion said empathetically. I know how close you were with both of them. We will pay those Mirs back for everything they've done, mark my words. Let us prepare for battle, Sergeant Major. The crew was off before Zawapika could muster the courage to say anything to her superiors about the lies Ravin had just told them all. Hawk, Valanth, Mecca, and Argyle sped southward on Ravina for the region of Bikaron, where the fake ascendancy was leading unwary citizens to their probable doom. They were accompanied by many Ravinian rebels in their own grav cars. It would be joined by Kama in the main rebel forces on the way down, after they dealt with their new prisoner, Lowmaster Gore. Mecca and Argyle now took the two grav bikes, while Valanth and Hawk rode with the commander of the current rebel squad, the one who Hawk had talked with earlier, named Proust. Hawk, of course, left out the extent to which they helped the Ascendancy during the initial attack, but he was able to give Proust much useful information, and Proust in turn filled the mercenaries in on what had happened during their absence, namely the Free World Alliance pulling out many of its troops. To Proust, it seemed that was the main reason the Ascendancy had waited to attack again. And unfortunately, the Free World Alliance had no clue that the Ascendancy were really the ones posing as the Ravinian soldiers, so they were unknowingly aiding their enemies. Our major concern is once the fighting really begins between the Alliance and the Ascendancy, the FWA will see us as an enemy if they think these soldiers are actually Ravinians, Proust told the two. Unfortunately, we're not really on speaking terms with the Alliance ourselves right now, either, Hawk replied. I've been a bit indisposed, but my friends tell me we're wanted by the Free World right now, so our use to you will probably be limited to cracking skulls. From what I've seen, your crew knows how to do that quite well, the rebel commander complimented them. A lot of practice in situations very similar to this, Valanth chimed in, hood drawn up as always. We'll do everything we can to liberate your people from these Mirs. Hawk gave his friend a curious glance. The rebel squad then began to approach the coordinates of the Bicaronian bunker, and halted the convoy at the staging area just around a nearby cliff, as close as they felt they could get without being detected. The mercenaries' ship, which had been commandeered by the rebels on a recent trip they made up to Animov, had joined them shortly before reaching their destination, bearing Kama, the rebel leader, and his right-hand man, Bartz. The team was assembled, and with a little scouting, they found the Ravinian citizens had already started coming to the new facility in droves. Soon the Ascendancy would have another civilian shield, as well as victims to enslave or kill as they saw fit. Disrupting the intake of civilian prisoners while keeping the ones already inside safe during the fight was the rebels' top priority, but they needed to win the facility before the fake Ravinians could get it established. There's more than one entrance to the place, even though it's all pretty well guarded, Koma told the whole team after the scouting was completed. Looks like we just have to hit them hard where they're least expecting it. Unfortunately for the rebels, they were not as undetectable as they thought. While they quickly planned, the Ascendancy more quickly assembled a counter-strike that at that moment lurked just a stone's throw away. The Ravinian cliffs a hazard as much as an advantage. The rebel sentry in the area alerted the rest of the crew by using a closed-channel transmission device the freedom fighters carried. We've got company, Kama told the rest of the fighters gathered there. They're coming from the south. Form up on the right and get ready to defend the convoy. The rebel leader then opened his communicator. Jakal, Green, they're on to us. We might need some air support. Wait for my signal. Just then, some large enemy blasts rocked the ground where the rebels stood, and the cliff facing them. blowing up several grav cars, mounting up casualties and causing the cliffs to crack, releasing boulders and rubble down the side toward even more of the rebel forces. The swift attack left them quickly devastated. "Get our shields up," Kama yelled, as a few of the grav car's operators activated energy generators, which created a barrier around them. Too late, however, for the first bombardment. "Hurry and help the wounded," the rebel commander added, though many were already taking up that task. Kama then turned to Hawk, Valiant, Mecha, and Argyle. "Those creeps sneaking up on us like that. I'm gonna go teach them that's no way to fight like a man. Who's with me?" Before waiting for any answer, he ran off toward the direction the blasts came, brandishing his Aetherium greatsword. Barnes followed closely behind him without hesitation. "That guy's nuts," Valance said, drawing his plasma rifle. "We better make sure he doesn't get himself killed. Hawk, grab a car. Let's cover him." Kraus told them all to go push into the facility with Kama and Barnes, while the rest dealt with the bulk of the forces outside. Hopping in the nearest grav car, Hawk took the driver's seat and Valance stood up in the back, emerging through the open ceiling so that he could still shoot. With Mecha and Argyle still on the grav bikes, the four followed behind Kama and covered him. More help then came in the form of the mercenary ship, currently being used by the rebel army. From a nearby canyon, the vessel emerged with its guns blazing. The faux Ravinian soldiers, who remained hidden with a cloaking device, were then revealed as the ship bombarded their location, triggering their own energy shield. They hoped to force a retreat, but the shield held, and the enemy focused its efforts on the ship instead, which then fled once more around Ravina's rocky cliffsides. Hawk got Valiant in range for his plasma rifle, and along with Mecha and Argyle on the bikes, were able to pressure the Ascendancy soldiers into lowering their shield in order to fight back. When they did so, Barnes pulled another pistol from his side holster, aimed toward the fake Ravinians, and began to charge a blast of plasma energy. "Oh, what?" Hawk said to himself, viewing the scene from inside the nearby grav car. Barnes then released the trigger, sending a burst of energy toward their enemies, who were visibly panicked. The large shot hit its target, exploding much like the attacks that the rebels themselves had just received. With their attackers reeling from the counterstrike, the group of 6 newfound friends engaged them with full force, routing the front lines with ease. Kama was brash, even in his fighting technique, but his skill and courage were unquestionable, as well as his self-confidence. "Yeah, run back home to your masters, you Ascendancy dogs, and remember what happens when you decide to mess with Kama the Neo-Knight." As the rest of the enemy forces fled, Hawk turned toward Kama. "Neo-Knight, huh? I've heard that name. So you actually call yourself that? What kind of cute title is that supposed to be anyway?" Kama looked at him with the same confident grin he nearly always wore, though his eyes showed a glint of anger over his fallen comrades. "It's supposed to be one that will inspire the Ravinian people, one that will motivate them to reclaim their home. It's a banner and a rallying cry for a new era that returns to the glory of our past. It also sounds cool," he added. Preparing to set out again, they saw the rest of the rebels pushing toward the compound, and Valanth told Kama that the other rebel commander, Proust, told them to push into the facility themselves. Hopping into the grav car, Hawk sped Valanth, Kama, and Barnes toward the Ascendancy bunker, now housing unwary Ravinian citizens. As they skirted the fight, they covered Mecha and Argyle, who advanced quickly toward their entrance point. Firing at the facility's doors, the two then turned away on their grav bikes, leaving an opening for the rest to follow up. Barnes took another shot with the handheld plasma cannon, but it wasn't able to blast through the fortified doorway. By then, the Ascendancy was able to get a few reinforcements to the gate, and they stalled Hawk, Valanth, Kama, and Barnes. "Got another plan?" Hawk asked Kama. "I think," Kama started, then looked up, as something caught his and everyone else's attention. "Oh, that's not good." Appearing in the sky above the facility, above them, was a large Ascendancy cruiser. The Ascendancy was driven from the natives' island on Inagon, but despite the great sorrow felt by all the people at the loss of the chief's youngest daughter, Katash, the warriors of Selva prepared to cross the strait again to aid their Calabite brethren on the mainland, where the Ascendancy, or the Supreme Order as they knew them, were well established and currently still fighting the battle the islanders had begun. Ankh had found Kita, still protected by Glaus, Grim, and Artis. He had not known for sure which of the chief's daughters had been killed until after the battle. Running to his beloved, he took her in his arms, and they both grieved for Katash. Responding to Ankh, Kita allowed him to take her away from there. Grim couldn't help but glance once more at the native princess as they left. Glaus, noticing this, said to the young Ascendancy defector, "I'm sorry, my boy. It was certainly not meant to be, though. Our world would be quite a shock for a young woman like that. It is better this way. She's got an important task here, anyway." The chief was still half broken from his loss, though he was driven to fight on. Speaking to Oshu, Aezic said, "We started this fight with you. We're going to help you finish it. Whenever your men are ready, I am too." Zarya was still resting, but Aezic didn't plan to take anyone else with him. He instructed Vala to hang back with Zarya for now, until he was perhaps ready to join in. Grim offered to come along with them, but Aezic wouldn't allow it. He assumed neither would Chief Oshu. Just before the war party set off again, a messenger came for the chief and spoke to him quickly. The chief then turned to Aezic. "More Outlanders have arrived," he said, "giving your name for amnesty and asking for you. He calls himself Sergeant J,